when the GPUs all synchronize and start singing together, the power demand spikes exponentially. And that puts huge pressure on the infrastructure, on the grid. And that, ultimately affects the communities that is near these AI data centers.
Welcome to We Talk IoT, where we explore the ideas and impact behind AI-driven tech of the future and how data creates real business opportunities. To stay ahead of the innovation curve, subscribe to our newsletters on the Avnet Silica website. I am your host, Ruth Haydock. The world's AI data centers have a power problem. GPU workloads spike in milliseconds, and legacy backup systems were never built for that. Nyobolt, a Cambridge deep tech startup, has evolved from a materials lab into a billion-dollar solutions provider. My guest today is Ramesh Narasimhan from Nyobolt. Ramesh, I'm glad to have you on the show. Welcome to We Talk IoT.
Ruth, thank you very much for inviting me, and pleasure to be here.
Ramesh, tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you to a battery startup?
Yeah, I come from an automotive background. I've been in automotive for about 25, 30 years. And I found that one of the key challenges as the industry was evolving towards EV was the downtime, when people had during charging the vehicles. And I found Nyobolt approach and the solution I certainly thought was the future. And hence I joined. I'm currently the Chief Commercial Officer and the Chief Financial Officer for Nyobolt.
Nyobolt spun out of the University of Cambridge in 2019, I think, and It was a materials science lab and turned into a commercial company. Can you walk me through that journey? Where did it start and where are you now?
Basically, Nyobolt's mission from day one never changed, right? It was always about delivering instant power, eliminating downtime in operations where, every second actually counts. So that was always the vision and mission for the company. The first step to that was the materials. So we started focusing on the materials, which is a key ingredient. And as we were developing it and as we were interacting with the customers, what we realized was that customers, basically, they wanted this problem to be solved rather than just one part of the solution. So we actually evolved from a materials company to what we are today. And I will go through that story. But basically, what we learned was, don't confuse your product with purpose, right? That was really an important lesson for us as we evolved as a company. Purpose was always delivering instant power and eliminating downtime or reducing downtime. And how we approach that, whether it's through materials or through the end product, it didn't matter.
And what forced that shift? Was it the customer, the market, or something you discovered internally?
Yeah, it was certainly, market dictated that to a large extent. We believed at that time that advanced battery materials would be enough to have those discussions, but customers were not buying materials, right? They were buying a full solution. So they wanted a complete system. They wanted guaranteed, performance, integration that is much faster. And they certainly were not an expert in this area. So they wanted to reduce their risk. So they were looking for a complete solution, which then made us evolve. But the first demonstration that we did was with a vacuum cleaner. Those iRobot-like things, right? The one that you can automate. We changed the battery in one of them as a prototype to demonstrate what our technology can do. I think at that time, the robot could run for an hour and needed about 3 hours of charging.
No.
Whereas with ours, it ran for 30 minutes, but with 3 minutes of charging. So, and it was half the pack, so you can increase it to 6 minutes, and it would have run for an hour as opposed to a 3 hour. That's how we started, because we needed to showcase what the underlying technology can do. And it was all about addressing that downtime and delivering that power. That was always the foundation of the company.
And before we get to AI data centers, what does Nyobolt's battery actually do? What does it do differently than conventional lithium ion batteries? What's your secret sauce?
Yes, we do have a secret sauce, and that basically enables very high fast charging capability. There are others who do fast charging capability, but it does not affect the life cycle of the product. And that was really important because we always focused on the total cost of ownership. So delivering instant power, eliminating downtime at a cost that is economically competitive over the life cycle. That was really important to us. And then as we evolved, we got into the products, which, as I said earlier, customers don't buy technology, right? They buy outcomes. And that's what we started focusing on is where are the industries where this is critical and what is the outcome that we can actually deliver, and combining that low downtime or zero downtime with long life cycle was really critical, and that's the differentiation.
And you mentioned something about how fast your battery charges. I think I read it's 80% charge in just under 5 minutes, and you even mentioned under 3 minutes. Those are striking numbers. How do you achieve that?
Yeah, so different applications have slightly different charge time. What I was referring to was the first product that we actually developed, which was the vacuum cleaner as a demo. But we then, of course, as any company with where we have a lot of belief in the outcome, we said we need to demonstrate this in a proof point where people can actually understand it even better. So we actually built our own Nyobolt car as a demonstrator, and that's where we showcased that you could actually charge the car within less than 5 minutes. Actually, it was 4.37 minutes to 80% of the battery capacity. And it was actually limited by the fact the charger wasn't big enough. It was a 350 kilowatt charger. Ours can take much more power than that. So it was, again, to showcase when you say you can charge your car under 5 minutes, where today, it is, of course, evolving, it is changing, and I think others are coming up with the slightly faster capacity, but it is still 30 to 40 minutes, charge time. Whereas, under 5 minutes is essentially like filling up petrol now, go grab a coffee while the car is charging and you can continue driving.
Yeah.
And what it actually means is you don't need to put these huge, heavy batteries in the vehicle when you don't need it. I mean, when people say you have 1,000 miles, it actually means you're carrying a lot of weight in the car. Nobody drives 1,000 miles without a brake. And if you can do that in 5 minutes, that suits most of the driving requirement.
Yeah.
It reduces the cost, reduces the weight, reduces the wear and tear, and more importantly, less impact on the planet as well. So that's what the aim was, to demonstrate how actually we need to think about it differently.
Yeah, we did have a guest on the show from a battery company as well, and we had discussed the topic of reach, that people are obsessed with reach when it comes to electric vehicles, and that it actually doesn't really matter because no one drives that long, as you mentioned, and especially not without a brake. And the need for it is just like a mental thing that people would like to. I need my car to be able to drive 1,000 miles without stopping, which is actually not very useful at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the key is going to be having that infrastructure, charging infrastructure. So the focus really is, if we get the infrastructure right, we can be much more efficient with all of these technology going in that enables fast charging.
Let us move from vacuum robots to electric vehicles now to AI data centers. AI data centers are a very polarizing topic right now. The power demand is just enormous and it keeps on growing. Paint us a picture of the actual problem. What is happening inside a data center that existing power infrastructure just cannot handle?
Yeah, it's not data center, it's the AI data center. And what happens is when the GPUs all synchronize and start singing together, the power demand spikes exponentially. And that puts huge pressure on the infrastructure, on the grid. And that, ultimately affects the communities that is near these AI data centers. And that's a real problem. What our data centers doing is, if it's 100 megawatt, they oversize the grid. They are utilizing GPUs at a much lower capacity through artificial constant utilization and stuff like that. So you're not having high productivity from a GPU perspective, which is quite expensive. You're oversizing the grid facilities, which means it's more expensive, and you're also incurring a higher operating cost for it, right? So the whole ecosystem is under pressure because of those spikes. And basically, our solution is to actually address that very spike. What we have done is, as I said, the vision hasn't changed. It's the instant power, right? So our technology suits perfectly well within this. It addresses that spike, it absorbs the spike and provides the power, and it is required to support the spike, and then gets charged when the spike goes down. And it responds within milliseconds, and it can provide power for 60 to 90 seconds, which is all that the spike lasts for seconds. Very rare it goes to 30 seconds, but yeah, we can provide that up to 60 to 90 seconds. And it's a rack-based solution. So it's with the service. What that means is the latency of power delivery towards the spike is minimal. So what that does is, one, it absorbs the spike. It takes away oversizing the grid facilities. It has a better GPU, leads to a better GPU utilization, and also lowering, the both capital cost and the operating expenses as well. So it addresses the whole ecosystem to make it much more efficient overall, and more importantly, from general community purposes, takes that pressure off the grid, so you don't have blackouts. Certainly not due to the spikes anymore.
Mm-hmm. And that, if I understand it correctly, is also the differentiator between a conventional UPS and your solution, right?
Yeah, as is mentioned, the UPS is slightly further away, so there is latency, and normally they do not react. I mean, our solution reacts in milliseconds. UPS typically does not react that fast, and the spikes happen so quickly that you do need that instant reaction. So one, it addresses that. Of course, you have super caps, but super caps cannot provide power for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. So we have got super cap type of response time, but with a battery like backup time, right? So it combines both. It's a total power solution.
We will take a short break. Stay with us, and we will be hearing from our guests very shortly. This podcast is brought to you by Avnet Silica, the engineers of evolution. Subscribe to our Avnet Silica newsletter or connect with us on LinkedIn. If you want to learn more about us, we have put information and links in this episode's show notes. You recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the state of Rajasthan for more than 100 megawatts of off-grid AI data centers. What does off-grid actually mean in practice?
We are looking at expanding our manufacturing capacity to support the data center solution. So we call our product DRS, or Dynamic Response System. We're seeing a lot of demand for this product, and we want to be ready. And so we were looking at setting up the facility, and we were looking at solar powering it, so that we are actually sustainable throughout our manufacturing process as well. So that's what it meant by off-grid.
Yeah, for a startup, you do have a lot of interesting use cases. Can you share some other stories with us, or some other interesting projects you have been working on at the moment?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, one is already known in the public, in physical AI space. This is we play a critical solution. We actually announced our partnership with Symbotic, where we are charging it again in less than 10 seconds. The bot runs for a certain period of time, and then it charges again in 10 seconds. So basically, the charging happens while the bot is loading and unloading. So basically, there's zero downtime because it is still doing other things while the charging is happening because it is that quick.
And Symbots are warehouse robots, yes?
Yeah, so Symbotic is a company that does warehouse robots, and they are a major supplier to Walmart in US and South Americas.
Wow.
So yeah, that's one solution. I can't name because we haven't announced it, but we are also working with a partner in terms of Humanoid, which is enabling them to increase the uptime of the robot by about 70%. So productive time of a humanoid, by 70% higher makes TCO, the total cost of ownership, much more interesting to adopt that kind of technology. So, and that's why I said earlier on, it's all about TCO. So the uptime delivers addressing the economic problem of moving towards a sustainable solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are really impressive numbers. Yeah. It's not only faster, it's lighter, it's cheaper, and it's more reliable. Yeah. I must ask, are there any trade-offs to your solution?
It depends on the solution, what the solution is for. Where there is an instant power, where there is downtime that needs to be addressed, no, but there are instances when our solution is not required, right? Where high energy density is what is the solution. So that has its place. We have slightly different focus, and they both do different things. So we are not in the space of high energy density, and high energy density cannot do what we're trying to solve and address, right? So it just depends on what is the customer need, what is the solution that they are looking for, and how can we help them with that solution.
And are there any constraints regarding the scaling?
No, I mean, we have a very diversified supply chain from Asia in and out of China. We have enough capacity and supply chain capability to scale very, very rapidly. And when I say rapidly, depending on what we are talking about, between 3 to 9 months, essentially we could scale up quite quickly.
Data centers, warehouse robotics, heavy duty automotive, grid storage, that's a wide front. Where do you focus first and why?
So our focus, as always, as I said, is to eliminate that downtime. The application, while it is different segments, the underlying technology that we are utilizing is our strength. We work very, very closely with customers to provide customized solutions. So our priority is to deliver what the customer needs rather than worrying about what segment they are in.
And looking ahead into the future, where do you think the road will lead for Nyobolt?
I think the key challenge is for people to even think about the operations differently, to understand how a technology like ours can eliminate and address their downtime. And in a lot of times, it takes few discussions for them to open up to that thinking of their operations in a completely different way. And I think that's the key is the more we roll out our technology, the more the industries will start adapting this and understanding how a fast charging battery solutions and power solutions can actually support and help them and make them more efficient. So I'm hoping that's where we are heading towards.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned that the customers sometimes are a little bit hesitant to open up. Why do you think that is?
I didn't say hesitant. I think it's that they just haven't understood because they haven't been exposed to the technology. So how does the fast charging can actually change their operations? So when you think about approaching the solution differently, it opens up a completely different way of going about doing what you're doing today. So that will happen. It will take time, but that's what we're heading towards.
Terrific. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you wish we had talked about?
I mean, of course, one thing that while we talk about Nyobolt and the interesting technologies we have, any and all companies are made by either the talents that you have. And, being in Cambridge, having the ecosystem around Cambridge has been extremely helpful and useful, and tapping into the talent here, especially in the material science and into the engineering side, has been very, very instrumental in us, growing and evolving as a company.
Yeah, it all has started with a big research project, yes?
Yes, yeah. But the key is access to talent, and the talents that we have with the Nyobolt has been instrumental in growing as a company.
If you had to put together a soundtrack for this episode, what song would you put on it?
It was in a Hindi movie, but it means, be victorious, and it's a song called Jai Ho, which means, victory to us. So that's what I would,
That's a terrific addition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was really interesting to hear how customer demand shaped Nyobolt's evolution from material science into a full infrastructure provider. The AI data center power problem is real, and it is really good to hear that a solution is on the way. Thank you for being on the show, Ramesh, and thank you for sharing your insights and your expertise with us.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Thank you for listening to We Talk IoT. Stay curious and keep innovating. This was Avnet Silica's We Talk IoT. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating. Talk to you soon.